What is good, Osiris here, stuck in the middle. I do uploads every day at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. Thank you for joining. The statue of George Floyd is a perfect monument. We're living in this time where it's one of those moments, 100 years from now, people are going to be reading about what were you doing? What were people doing in the year 2020 to 2025 or 2030? It's one of those things you can read about in a school book, and it's a whole lot different to live in this time now like we are. And if a time traveler from the future came to our time right now and asked me, "Hey, tell me about it. What's happening right now? How is life?" I would show them the George Floyd statue. They might look at me confused, not understanding, and thinking it's part of the story, but that can't be everything for right now.
In the form of a 700-pound massive bronze statue. Mayor Ras Baraka today said it memorializes the man whose tragic murder last year by a Minneapolis police officer elevated the Black Lives Matter movement.
Look at what it represents. George Floyd, at the time of his death, was filled with meth, COVID, fentanyl, had a criminal record, resisted arrest, had fake money, lost both of his jobs, one of them due to unconstitutional lockdowns, was killed in the custody of clown-ass police, and his death was politicized. What sums up our times better than this? The statues that have been erected represent a fake, failed, phony Black Lives Matter movement that focuses on police and Donald Trump instead of 40 years of failed Democratic mayors in Minneapolis. I'm not saying vote Republican. I am saying think critically. Think independently. These monuments represent failed domestic policy from government officials who can't stop the drug trade in our country or don't care to, or even are corrupt and involved in it. A failed geopolitical strategy that fosters drugs, counterfeit money, and doesn't protect people. It represents police who are so poorly trained that non-experts like myself wonder what the hell they're doing half the time. It represents an alarming theory on race that eliminates all accountability for a man to not resist arrest and to simply comply. This same psychotic view on life makes excuses for rioters burning down their own community, justifies people vandalizing and toppling statues, but when that happens to a statue they support, it's now an alarming hate crime. Steve Bannon was on with Tim Pool the other day, and I had one of those moments that blew me away. He has the best take I have heard anyone have on George Floyd.
I mean, let's go to Mr. Floyd and I say this all the time about George Floyd, and I don't want to talk about the crime that was committed against him. That's a different topic. But I want to say, let's look at his life, right? When he died, he had CCP virus, he had COVID-19, he was on fentanyl and opioids, right? And he didn't have a great job because all the manufacturing jobs shipped overseas. Think of what George Floyd's life would have been if we had had a manufacturing base. He would be a supervisor or a foreman at a factory or a junior management. He'd be opening up his summer home to go fishing up in the lake country of Minnesota, with his second home up there, a little cabin he could if he didn't have the opioids that shipped in by the Chinese Communist Party through the cartels in Mexico across open borders, with everybody making money on the way up and the huge profits in that, to poison him and no opportunity for a job. And to top it all off, the Chinese Communist Party virus that the elites and the scientific priesthood has basically helped fund and helped do. He had the CCP COVID-19 virus in him. He had the virus in him. He had fentanyl in him. He didn't have access to a great job because all the great manufacturing jobs are shipped off. Look, that's the Greek tragedy to me of George Floyd, is that he was in that position that day. And by the way, let's talk about the fake 20. Well, that's also the CCP, and we know that these foreign entities are putting out this fake money all the time with the opioids to do it. That was what the counterfeit bill was.
That had me thinking, what part of the movie is this where Steve Bannon, the guy who was portrayed as the Grim Reaper on Saturday Night Live, is the one that has the best, most heartfelt, most emotional, most populist take away from the George Floyd death? I didn't choke up, but I felt something when he said that. George Floyd and his girlfriend, who he referred to as Mama, had opioid problems with fentanyl and other drugs.
Both Floyd and I, our story, it's a classic story of how many people get addicted to opioids. We both suffered from chronic pain. Mine was in my neck and his was in his back. We both had prescriptions, but after prescriptions that were filled, and we got addicted and tried really hard to break that addiction many times.
People might look at the statue and wonder, what if Derek Chauvin never arrived on the scene? What if Derek Chauvin never put his knee on George Floyd's neck? Well, no one knows for sure what killed him, but let's say he was alive, which we wish happened. He would still be fighting the same demons, which we wish he could overcome. But ever since Steve Bannon planted that seed in my head, I've wondered, what if America didn't offshore all these jobs to China for cheap manufacturing with things like an iPhone and other devices that we have? And we kept the jobs here in the States, and we paid more. We paid more patriotically, more for our devices to better our country, to make more people have better opportunities. And if George Floyd was a supervisor making nearly six figures, and maybe he's married to mama and they have a house, maybe they have kids, and he's looking for his second property up in the northern part of Minnesota in the lake somewhere. The George Floyd statue should be in the Smithsonian. It's the perfect symbol of the failure of our country and the struggle that many common people are unable to overcome. Take care.
I have walked past 1,000,000 eyes, all of them waiting for that day. I know they need me to fill their empty space, but it's you I love, it's you I love. And on this day I am holding on to you, and today there's a plan for me to do, for me. Yesterday I was feeling awfully low, but today I know what I need to know. At the end of the day, at the end of the day, I have no fear, 'cause I got stay.